So imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the population of a small city, like 30,000 highly paid tech professionals, were just completely locked out of their laptops overnight.
Yeah, just sudden black screens.
Right. And not because their company is failing, you know,
Yeah.
but because it is betting literally absolutely everything on machines taking their place.
I mean, it is just a phenomenal scale of disruption. When we talk about Oracle eliminating uh, 12 to 18% of its entire global workforce, we are looking at a really violent structural reorganization.
Yeah, that's a huge chunk of the company.
It is. You simply do not sever 30,000 livelihoods. I mean, that's a full fifth of your operations. Just to massage a quarterly earnings report or, trim some organizational fat.
Right. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission for today's deep dive is to kind of get underneath the sheer shock value of that 30,000 number.
Exactly, because there's a lot going on under the hood.
We're going to map out the mechanical reality of this pivot. We want to understand the brutal corporate math driving this, how the technology is actually replacing these specific roles, and, honestly, most importantly, what this means for your own trajectory in the industry.
Yeah, for anyone listening, this is crucial.
Because what we are looking at isn't just one legacy tech giant shrinking. It is a fundamental structural reset of the global knowledge economy.
We really have to separate the emotional weight of a mass layoff from the cold, functional calculus that leadership teams are currently applying across the board right now.
Right, which is hard to do, but necessary.
Yeah, Oracle is basically offering us a very stark look at the blueprint for the next decade of enterprise tech.
Okay, so let's start with the immediate catalyst here. Why upend a functioning, completely profitable enterprise?
Well, the driving force here is an aggressive, really high-stakes sprint to build out AI infrastructure.
The infrastructure race.
Exactly. Oracle is desperately trying to catch up to AWS and Azure in the cloud space, and they are doing it by pouring billions into physical data centers.
And those physical realities are exactly what's driving the financial pressure,
Yeah.
right? I mean, building a cloud network for next-generation AI models is fundamentally different from building like a traditional web hosting data center.
Oh, completely different. We are no longer talking about standard racks of CPUs. AI requires massive high-density clusters of specialized GPUs.
Which completely changes the physical footprint and, the whole cost structure of the facilities.
Dramatically. I mean, GPUs draw an exorbitant amount of power, and they run incredibly hot. You cannot just, put them in a standard air-cooled server farm.
Right, you'd melt the building.
Basically, yeah. You are suddenly dealing with direct-to-chip liquid cooling systems. You are having to negotiate with utility companies for dedicated gigawatt-level power grid access. It's intense. You're buying hundreds of acres of land simply to house the cooling infrastructure and the power substations required to keep these AI clusters from literally melting down.
And the capital expenditure required just to break ground
Yeah.
is staggering.
It's astronomical.
And that explains the intense cash crunch we're seeing them face right now. The infrastructure costs are basically bleeding their coffers dry.
That's exactly it.
Because when analysts look at the operational savings from cutting these 30,000 employees, the estimate is that it frees up roughly $8 to $10 billion, which, if we look at the current market rates, is roughly the cost of spinning up 2 state-of-the-art gigawatt-class AI data centers.
And that contextualizes the trade-off perfectly. What's fascinating here is that $8 to $10 billion is not going to shareholder dividends.
Right.
It's not going to stock buybacks. It is being ripped directly out of human payroll and injected straight into concrete, copper, and silicon.
So they're just moving the money from people to machines.
Yes. Oracle leadership found themselves looking at the sheer cost of competing in the AI era and realized they could not afford to pay their human workforce and build the machines at the same time.
It feels like we're watching the transition from switchboard operators to automated telecom routing.
Right.
You aren't just firing people to save money, you are fundamentally changing the architecture of the network itself.
That's a really good analogy. The automated switchboard becomes the operator.
Right. But let's dig into the actual mechanics of that. It's one thing to say you're going to use AI to, do more with less. It's another thing entirely to keep a sprawling enterprise running after you delete 30,000 employees.
Yeah, it sounds impossible on paper.
Right. So how are they functionally replacing these people?
Well, this is where we have to clarify a massive misconception about where artificial intelligence is right now. For the last few years, the industry narrative has heavily focused on augmentation.
Like having a helper?
Exactly.
Oh.
AI was pitched as a highly capable digital assistant, a co-pilot.
Right. The idea was that the human is still driving the car. The AI is just the GPS telling you the fastest route.
Hmm.
It helps a developer write boilerplate syntax faster, or like helps a customer service rep pull up a client's history instantly.
But Oracle is not utilizing augmentation here. They are deploying autonomous replacement.
Autonomous replacement.
Yeah.
Wow.
The three areas getting hit the hardest in this layoff are coding, support, and operations. These systems are no longer acting as assistants, they are acting as end-to-end agents.
Okay, so break down exactly how that works on the ground. Let's take coding, for example.
Yeah.
What is the difference between an AI copilot and an AI replacement in a normal day-to-day software development environment?
Sure. So with a copilot, a human software engineer receives a Jira ticket, figures out the logic, sets up the environment, and starts typing.
And the AI jumps in to help.
Right, the AI simply auto-completes the lines of code as they type, maybe catching a syntax error here or there. The human is doing the actual engineering. The AI is just, well, a glorified autocomplete.
Okay, making them faster but not replacing them.
Exactly. But an autonomous coding agent handles the entire life cycle.
Wait, so the system itself reads the Jira ticket?
It reads the ticket. It automatically clones the repository. It analyzes the existing code base to understand the architecture.
No human input.
None. It writes the necessary code to implement the feature or fix the bug. It spins up a virtual environment, runs its own testing protocols, iterates on any bugs it finds during testing, and then submits a completed pull request for review.
That's incredible.
The entire middle layer of execution, the actual hands-on keyboard software engineering is just bypassed.
Which means you don't need the massive teams of junior and mid-level developers whose primary job was grinding through those specific tickets. You just need a fraction of the staff to review the final output.
Precisely.
But what about support and operations? Because maintaining enterprise servers and handling client emergencies requires a massive amount of nuance.
We are seeing the exact same end-to-end automation in operations. Let's say a server cluster experiences a massive spike in latency. Historically, an alert goes off, an operations engineer logs in, pulls the server logs, identifies the anomalous process, manually kills it, and writes a patch to prevent it from happening again.
A process that might take a human, an hour or two? Assuming they diagnose it correctly on the first try?
Right. But an AI operations agent monitors the network constantly. It detects the latency spike in milliseconds.
Milliseconds.
It instantly ingests and analyzes millions of lines of server logs across the entire cluster, identifies the exact memory leak causing the issue, automatically deploys a hotfix to reroute traffic, and patches the underlying code.
So it's fixed before a human even knows it's broken.
Exactly. The incident is resolved and the ticket is closed without a human being ever seeing an alert.
That is deeply unsettling when you think about the permanence of it. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source says many of these jobs simply won't come back to the market.
They won't.
These aren't jobs that are going to bounce back when interest rates drop or the economy surges. If a machine can execute the entire life cycle of a support ticket in milliseconds, that human role is structurally erased. It is permanently gone.
And that permanence is what makes the execution of this layoff so jarring. You cannot softly transition a company out of 30,000 roles that are literally ceasing to exist.
And the reality of that execution was incredibly brutal. Real people, many with years of tenure, experienced immediate and severe disruption.
It was very sudden.
Yeah, we were talking about employees waking up to find their corporate access entirely revoked. Early termination notices landed in personal inboxes, followed by instantaneous system lockouts. There was no transition period, no knowledge transfer, no handovers. The screens just went black.
That sheer abruptness is a massive tell. It reveals the intense, almost panicked pressure that Oracle's leadership is operating under.
Right, because you're losing all that institutional knowledge.
Exactly. If you lock 30,000 people out of their systems overnight without a handover, you are taking an incalculable operational risk. You are betting the absolute survival of the company on the fact that your AI systems can instantly pick up the slack.
And if Oracle is willing to risk $10 billion and completely shatter its internal corporate culture to execute this, it makes you wonder if they are seeing something the rest of the market isn't. Or, if they are just making a desperate gamble.
This raises an important question because they aren't building all these AI agents entirely in-house.
No, they're not. They have committed immense amounts of capital to external partnerships, relying heavily on companies like OpenAI to provide the foundational models that power this automation.
Which means they're essentially outsourcing their core operational competency.
Right.
If those external foundational models experience a degradation in reasoning capabilities, or if they simply, fail to deliver the promised efficiencies at scale, Oracle has completely burned its ships.
They won't have the people to fall back on.
They will not have the human workforce required to keep their enterprise software running.
And you can clearly see the market holding its breath on this exact point. Oracle's stock is experiencing severe volatility right now.
Which is unusual for a layoff of this size.
Yeah, normally Wall Street loves a massive layoff. Cutting overhead usually triggers an immediate stock bump because the profit margins look artificially wider for the next few quarters. But this volatility suggests deep skepticism from investors.
They see the $10 billion saved, but they are looking at the massive capital expenditure on data centers and asking, is this actually going to work?
Exactly. The market is fundamentally uncertain whether the technology is mature enough to support a structural reset of this magnitude.
But despite that uncertainty, Oracle's actions are cementing a massive macro trend. If we connect this to the bigger picture, thousands of tech workers lost their jobs in 2026.
It's everywhere.
Industry titans like Meta and Amazon are making identical, albeit sometimes quieter, pivots into AI infrastructure while shedding human headcount.
So Oracle isn't an outlier. They are just executing the transition with the volume turned all the way up. They are loudly establishing what is basically the new blueprint for the AI-era tech enterprise.
It is the definitive playbook. Step one is aggressive labor reduction, fundamentally shrinking the human footprint of your company.
Right.
Step two is redirecting every dollar of that freed up capital straight into physical compute infrastructure and AI partnerships.
And step three is replacing the middle layers of your operational stack with autonomous AI agents.
Exactly.
And step four is where it gets incredibly relevant for you, anyone listening to this right now. You only rehire selectively, and you only hire for highly specialized AI-adjacent roles.
That's a new reality.
Which brings us to the most vital question we have to answer today. If you are a professional operating in the knowledge economy, whether you're in tech, finance, or logistics, how do you survive in an industry running on this blueprint? Are you positioned to benefit, or will you be disrupted by it?
It's a tough question.
What does an AI-adjacent role actually look like on a random Tuesday at 10 in the morning?
It means your daily workflow is no longer about generating raw output. The era of the generalist coder sitting down to write 500 lines of Python is over.
Just gone.
The era of the generalist copywriter churning out marketing emails is over. If you are in an AI-adjacent role, you are essentially functioning as an orchestrator and an editor of digital workers.
So it's like you aren't laying the bricks, you're the foreman managing the robotic bricklayers.
That's a perfect way to look at it. On a Tuesday morning, an AI-adjacent software engineer is reviewing the pull request generated by an autonomous coding agent.
They're checking the machine's work.
You are checking its architectural alignment. You are auditing the code for complex security vulnerabilities that the model might have hallucinated. You are defining the strict parameters and data pipelines that the AI operates within.
So your value is no longer your ability to write syntax.
No, your value is your domain expertise, your critical reasoning, and your ability to manage the AI systems effectively.
You have to fundamentally ask yourself, are you positioned to build, manage, and govern the automated engine? Or are you the traditional operator waiting to be replaced by it?
Because the middle ground is completely eroding.
Right. You are either managing the AI or your role is being targeted for absolute automation to fund the data center that will eventually replace you.
It is an incredibly polarizing shift. The workforce is being bifurcated into those who build the physical and digital infrastructure and those who orchestrate the AI models running on top of it.
While the traditional execution-based roles that used to employ tens of thousands of people at a single company are just vanishing from the corporate spreadsheet.
They really are.
So let's bring all of this together.
Yeah.
We started today staring at a truly shocking number. 30,000 people locked out of their systems at Oracle.
A historic disruption.
But as we've walked through the mechanics of this, we can see that this is far from a simple cost-cutting measure. It is a violent, necessary pivot to survive the cloud infrastructure wars. Oracle is intentionally sacrificing its human capital the coders, the support teams, the operations engineers, to free up $10 billion. They're taking that capital and pouring it directly into the concrete, power grids, and liquid-cooled GPUs required to compete with AWS and Azure.
They are betting their entire existence on the premise that autonomous AI agents can handle the day-to-day execution of a massive enterprise.
Right. And while the human toll is undeniable and profound, we have to recognize this strategic shift is the objective new reality of the global market. Human efficiency has maxed out. Absolute automation is the new driver of enterprise growth,
It is a massive paradigm shift.
and it's a lot to digest. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to hand it over to our expert for a final thought. Because underneath this entire transition, there is a glaring structural paradox that could have massive consequences for the entire industry a decade from now.
Yeah, there is a really unsettling ripple effect here. If we look closely at this new blueprint, the complete automation of entry-level and mid-level coding, support, and operational roles, we have to ask a pretty terrifying question about the future of human expertise.
Right, about the pipeline.
Exactly. If the entry-level jobs are permanently replaced by AI agents, how does the next generation of workers ever acquire the foundational, hands-on experience required to step into those highly paid, senior AI-adjacent roles?
You can't just skip the basics.
You cannot manage a system you do not fundamentally understand. If the bottom rungs of the career ladder are completely automated away just to fund the data centers, the entire pipeline for creating future human technical leadership might be structurally broken.
Wow.
We may be building incredible machines today while quietly destroying the ecosystem that creates the human experts needed to run them tomorrow.
That is exactly the kind of systemic risk we all need to be watching as this new era unfolds. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep adapting, and stay curious. We will see you next time.